Hey guys, why the five magic words? So if you're watching this, then you're part of our life coach certification program. You've gone through one of our modules. Why the five magic words? And I call it five magic words because it's usually five or six words, right? What's important to you about? I want to give you a reference point. Sometimes something that is so simple is so powerful. But sometimes when something is so simple, we kind of miss it. Are you with me? So we are looking for um, something in greater detail. So I learned about the five magic words. I learned how to elicit criteria, values. Wow, 25 years ago, 27 years ago. And all I have done is used over and over and over and over in personal life, in business, in ministry, in coaching, in marketing. Now, does that mean that's all there is? No, of course not. But because it is so powerful to get into, and you'll see I rebranded the name of the program now Inner Compass, because that really is just the inner compass. It's the values and criteria that's truly in that person. How you elicit that so you can help correct and or guide them. So why the five magic words? Because they work. Now, do you have to always say what's important to you about? Oh, that's interesting. What's important to you about that? No, you don't use that exact language. And there's even some statements, and I'm going to be teaching more and more because sometimes the statements are even more powerful. But if I'm talking to someone and I listen to them and go, oh, it sounds like what I'm hearing. It seems. It sounds like safety is something that's really important to you. Tell me more about that. It sounds like, well, it seems like you've gone through some trauma. Am I correct on that? And what I'm doing is I'm using a statement to elicit a area. And there's been a few times, I'm telling you guys, very few times that I've said, wow, what's important to you about? What's important to you about buying real estate? What's important to you about investing in therapy or whatever it may be? There's been a few times when I say what's important to you about that I didn't get a direct answer. So few. And I may have to go back and reword it. So I may go back and go, well, it seems like this seems like, and I'm a bit in a value that I'm listening for. And this will be done so much easier once you've done a couple hundred sessions, maybe even 50 sessions. Then you'll be able to say, okay, this is where we're at. Or let me back up on that. It seems like this. And I'm using that based on what I'm hearing. So why the five magic words? Because they work. So if you're not in the course, you're like, Wayne, what are you talking about? I don't even know what the five magic words are. Then maybe you haven't got that far into the program. Continue moving forward. But many of you, I know that have gone through the program and you're coaching people, you're trying to enroll people into your coaching, you forget the five magic words. So let's do a quick example. I'm gonna give you two. I've used these over and over and over, but I have to give them to you again because they really matter. So I'm not going to talk about how I met my wife and using the five magic words there. That's another story. Maybe in the course, may not. We can just definitely discuss it. But I'm working with I'm going to go back 25 years ago. So I'm in my 20s. I'm learning. I'm using this for persuasion. I'm using this for sales more than I am coaching and counseling at the time. But I'm learning how to elicit someone's criteria. And so I meet with someone, and we actually, they were a pretty good friend of mine. I worked with this person, and they were trying to decide between this person and this person. They were going to date. And so we go to lunch, me, her, and another friend of mine. We all go to lunch. We went to lunch a lot. And so I'm listening to this the whole time. And I have a lot of respect for this person, but after like 40 conversations, I'm like, oh. And I knew both of the people that she was talking about. She was dating them both and trying to figure out which one was for her. So anyway, we're coming back, and finally I said, hey, let me ask you a question. What's important to you in a boyfriend? Or what's important to you about a relationship? Whatever the words were. And she gave me surface level. Well, I want somebody that's trustworthy, somebody that likes me, somebody blah, 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 blah. Surface level. So I'm listening for voice inflections. I'm listening for changes in the words. You really didn't get anything. Just voice, just, surface level. Gotcha. And normally I would do this over 30 minutes. We literally had to be back at work in like 7 minutes. I'm doing it quick. I said, gotcha. Cool. So this is important to you. Yeah. Well, what's important to you about that? Very quick, very simple. There was a pause. Why? Because she had never really even elicited her own emotions in this. So she had to go back in and elicit those emotions or come up with an answer. So she told me, well, I think this is important. And I listened. Okay. And a very powerful word. And it means, okay, now keep talking. So she kept talking. So now we're about 3 minutes left to work. And so I finally said, gotcha. We said this was important and this was important. So I'm using her keywords, right? But I'm curious, what's ultimately most important to you about? And I used the last word that she gave. It was actually a small little phrase. And she sat there. This made us late for work. But she sat there and she said, and she brought up something about her past decades ago. There was something, it was an unmet need. And she said, this is what's important about that. This is why. And with almost tears in her eyes, she said, and it's John. It's John. And I'm like, yeah. Okay, cool. Can we get back to work? 26 years ago, again, something like that. And this week, well, that's Monday, so let me say last week. But in the last 7 days, she reached out to me on Facebook. They're married. They're buying a new home. They've had multiple homes. They're buying a new home. They're married. Life is good. She made the right decision because we found out that inner compass. We found out what really was important to her. And if it had been something that was harmful, dangerous, limited thinking, limited perspectives, then we could have addressed that. But do you see how that changed? Now, I wanted to give, that was one example. I'll give one more really quick. I'm working with a real estate firm. They're like, well, we would love to come on and teach how to elicit criteria, et cetera, et cetera. So they wanted to learn this for sales. And I'm like, great. So we jump on a call. There's probably 50, 60 people. And I said, I need a volunteer. One girl raises her hand and said, okay. So we're on a Zoom call. And I'm like, okay, cool. Hey, let me ask you really quick. I forgot her name. Let's say Jennifer. Hey, let me ask you really quick, Jennifer. What's important to you about real estate? She gave an answer, pretty good answer, kind of surface level. Gotcha. And again, I did this within 5 minutes. Cool. So you said this is important. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. A little small talk around it. I'm curious though, what's important to you about that? Why is that important to you in your life? She went a level deeper. You'll notice they pause. They go inside and they start to elicit. And she got telling me, not only is she telling me, but she's also now beginning to feel those emotions. Are you with me? And what somebody feels, what somebody, they elicit emotion, they attach that emotion to the person. Are you with me? She was attaching that emotion to me. So you gotta be careful when you're eliciting emotions. Okay? Gotcha, Jennifer. But ultimately, why is that so important? What's most important to you about that? And that is when she literally started crying, tears. And she broke down and started crying. She said, and she gave me her answer. And it was a heartfelt. Nobody in her family had ever succeeded. She had a rough childhood. She really felt she had been overlooked. And there was some racial issues. And she just poured her heart out. And then my question to the whole team was, I sort of said, thank you for being so vulnerable. Thank you for sharing. I said, now, how many of you, because they're here trying to learn how to recruit these agents into their brokerage, how many of you think I could recruit her right now if I could show her what's important to her as she's crying about, and those emotions are elicited, I could help her obtain those. That's the magic of words in sales. If you can ethically do it, that's another lesson. But in coaching with someone, most people say, I want this, I want this, I don't want this, I don't want that. They don't know. And you go, wait a minute. And you go through 3 levels deep. Now, don't try this if you haven't gone through the course. So maybe you need to revisit the course. It's 3 levels deep of the 5 magic words. So hopefully this is helpful for you guys. If you are in our group, I need to see you on our Thursday call. So Thursday, 8 p.m. We are looking at bringing in some other hours, but right now, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, be on the call. If you don't have the link, then definitely reach out to me. And for all of our new clients, our new students coming on board, thank you. I'm excited to be working with you. You are going to be a life changer. That's who we are. We're out there changing lives. So God bless, and we'll talk soon.